friends, it's Alexa from Alexa Loves Books, and I'm here today to bring you my January 2016 wrap-up. First of all, just gotta take a moment to say I am obsessed with this new tank top I own. It says Granger Lovegood 2016, and I love it. You guys, I love it. That's pretty much all I gotta say. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about all the books I read in January. I read a total of 18 books in January, so I'm just gonna tell you about all of them and then save my top 5 reads for last. Alright, let's get started. Got my handy dandy list here. At the very beginning of January was TBR Takedown, and I participated even though for some of the days of this particular readathon I was a little busy. But I did manage to read 3 books. The first was Murder Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens, which I gave a 3.75 to. This book is about Hazel and Daisy, and they have a detective agency in their school that they run, and they encounter their first real mystery when their science teacher's dead body is found in the gym and then goes missing. I thought it was very cute, it was very fun, it reminded me of Nancy Drew a little bit. It took a little while for me to warm up to the characters, mostly because I felt kind of annoyed with Daisy, and Hazel was okay, not remarkable, but by the end of the novel I was really happy I had read it because I really enjoyed it, and I actually do want to read the next one. And then I read a series that I really enjoyed. Like, I know I still don't think it's like the best thing I've ever read in my life, but it was so much fun to read, and that was the Selection Trilogy. I read the Selection, the Elite, and the One, and the Selection and the Elite were part of my TBR Takedown reads. This entire series revolves around a girl named America Singer, and she is basically chosen to be one of the 35, I think, girls to compete to become the future queen of their land and to marry Prince Maxen. And I like, the writing got better with each book, and even though there are a lot of things I could say that I thought was a little bit much and a little bit dramatic, I really just enjoyed it. I thought it was so much fun to read. I really liked America as a character, and I really liked Prince Maxen. Clearly I'm biased. And I thought it was just really fun. It was really sweet. There was actually more to it than just this competition that they were in, and I really liked that a lot. So I gave the Selection 3.75, I gave the Elite 3.5 stars, and I gave the One 4 stars. That's my favorite so far of that entire series, and it's all because of a certain prince. I also read The Expatriates by Janice Y.K. Lee, and I really enjoyed this one. It's basically a novel that takes on the perspective of 3 different women who are living in Hong Kong as expatriates. And, you know, their lives are both ordinary and filled with such extraordinary circumstances, and I really like that. The writing is lovely. The plot was pretty compelling past a certain point, but I am kind of a little bit sad that they didn't really wrap up one of the plot points that I was feeling very emotionally attached to. I gave that one a 3.75 stars. And then I read Paper Wishes by Louise Sepabon, and this one is the story of a girl and her family who find themselves brought to a Japanese internment camp. It's such a simple story, but I love that it kind of shows me a new part of American history, and I love that it shows me, you know, how it must have been like, and I like that it does this in the voice of a child because it makes it so much easier to understand, whether for me or whether for the actual target audience for this book. I also gave this one 3.75 stars. And then I read Reign of Shadows by Sophie Jordan, and this one was really interesting. I did not realize until I started reading more reviews of it that it was actually sort of a Rapunzel-inspired story, and then I think about it and it really is. It's about a girl named Luna who has lived all her life in this tower because her entire country has been consumed by darkness. There's no light, no sunlight, no day. And someone usurped the throne from her family and murdered her parents. So she's basically the country's only hope, which is why they're trying to keep her safe. But she longs to go outside and see what's happening in the real world, and just to be out there and have a sense of adventure. Everything changes when she encounters a boy named Fowler, and she is forced to actually go out on that adventure that she wanted to go on. It was a lot, it was a lot more enjoyable than I expected it to be. I mean, there were still some things that didn't quite work for me, but I can see their appeal overall, and so I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars as well, and I'm probably going to be reading the sequel. And then I read Instructions for the End of the World by Jamie Kane, and this is probably the read that I am least liking this month, or the read I least like this month. It's about two sisters who are forced to fend for themselves after their parents both leave them alone. It's a good thing both sisters have been brought up by their dad, who is sort of like a prepper, and they kind of know how to handle themselves and how to survive if the apocalypse or the end of the world should come. I think it's interesting, the whole concept of it, because that puts the girls in a very unusual situation. And I also like that during the summer that they're left, to their own devices, they're forced to really grow up, really take responsibility for things, and like really learn what it is that they're willing and not willing to do. I just felt though that it was lacking something. I can't explain it, but it's like the potential was there, but it just didn't quite work for me. And so that one I gave 1.75 stars. Up to This Point by Jennifer Longo, which is about a girl who has spent her entire life wanting to be a ballerina with the San Francisco Ballet, and she suddenly has her circumstances change, and she decides that her best course of action is to run away to Antarctica and winter over, which basically means spend a few months living there. And what I loved about this book is, first of all, the setting was incredible. I thought it was so interesting to learn about Antarctica and to kind of experience what the scientists who do live there end up doing. And I liked that Harper was a ballerina and that she was just trying to figure out where to go, what to do with her life, and especially after her plans for the future have gotten derailed. So that was really interesting to read about. I gave this one 4 stars. The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend by Katarina Bivald, and this is actually translated from Swedish, I think. And it's a very cute story. It's about a woman named Sarah who travels all the way to Broken Wheel, Iowa to visit her friend Amy, only to discover upon her arrival that Amy has died. Instead of just changing her plans or going back early, she decides to stay on in the town, and she slowly but surely worms her way into the hearts of all the people who live there. One of the things I loved about this book was how Sarah found so much solace and so much strength in books. She opens a bookshop in this story, and I love that. I love that she encourages the people of Broken Wheel to read. I love that she completely affects how they see themselves and each other and other people. And I just thought it was very cute. I mean, it did take a while to get used to the pacing because it's kind of offbeat a little bit. Like, I enjoyed it, but it was definitely it took a while to click. So I gave this one 3.75 stars. A Week Without Tuesday by Angelica Banks. This is the sequel to Finding Serendipity, which came out, I think, last year? Yes, it came out last year. This story continues where we left off in the first, but basically Tuesday is now tasked to save Storyland, so she has to go back and save it because it is collapsing. Worlds are colliding, characters are meeting when they shouldn't be, and writers are getting injured, and so it's up to her to figure out how to fix things. And I really enjoyed this one because I liked being reunited with Tuesday, with her mother Serendipity, with Vivian, her mother's main character, her dog Baxter. There were a lot of fun characters in this, and I liked going back to the Land of Story. I just felt like it kind of had a bit of a off start, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But in the end, I ended up loving this one. I really just think that it's so clever how they've managed to make an entirely new story for this series with the same characters, the same world, and a problem that feels quite realistic. Well, as realistic as something imaginative can be. I gave this one 4 stars. The Distance from A to Z by Natalie Blitt is an adorable contemporary YA about Abby and Zeke, who are both at a program for intermediate French during the summer, and that's how they meet. They become partners in that class, and they just develop this very adorable relationship that I could not get enough of. I love the integration of French into the story. I love the other relationships aside from Abby and Zeke's relationship, and I thought it was just so darn cute. And I gave this one a 4 stars out of 5. Now we are going to talk about my top reads of the month, which I am very excited about. First one, which I didn't actually mention in my blog post, which I will link down below, is Very Good Lies by J.K. Rowling. This is basically her commencement speech at Harvard in book form. And I loved rereading it. I felt so encouraged by it, and I think it was a great thing that I read it in the first month of the year. And I like it because there's so much lettering in it, and because there's so much, illustration. It's lovely. It is an amazing speech where she talks about how failure is important in life and how imagination is too, and I felt very inspired. This one got 5 stars from me. And then another of my top reads of the month is The Hero and the Crown by Robin McKinley, the first in the Damar series. I really enjoyed this one. The writing reminds me a little bit of Juliet Marillier, who I love. I loved her Daughter of the Forest book and Son of the Shadows book. I also really just enjoyed reading about Erin and how she figures out what she's meant to do with her life. She's just really badass. Even with all the things stacked against her, she just proves herself time and again, and I really, really, really enjoyed that. I gave this one 4.25 stars. And then I read a book that I have been saying I was going to read since last year and finally got around to it. Madly by Amy Allward. This is the story of Samantha Kemi. She comes from a family of alchemists, and their reputation was once really, really good, and now it's not so great because there are these new things called synths, which are synthetic ingredients and synthetic potions, and those are rising in popularity. She is determined to fix that, and when a wild hunt is called, she can't resist the call. The Wild Hunt is basically a royal family thing that calls all the potion makers and the alchemists to help save the royal family if something dire is going on. And something dire is because the Princess of Nova has poisoned herself with a love potion. So she's kinda in love with herself. So basically, this book was really fun to read. It was very fantasy light. I enjoyed trying to figure out how to assemble the potion alongside Sam, as well as all the adventures she got to go on. And it was kind of hard to not crush on the guy in this book. I can't even explain why I'm attracted to him, but I love him. Zane is amazing. And I just really thought this book was a lot of fun to read. And I think many people will too. 4.25 out of 5 stars. And then I read The Shadow Queen by C.J. Redwine, and oh my goodness, probably my favorite fantasy that I have read so far this year that is not a reread. It's a Snow White inspired story, if you couldn't tell by the apple on the cover. It tells of a girl named Lorelai, who is basically the Snow White of the story, and she has tried to keep under the radar while she gains strength and knowledge so that she can take back her kingdom from her stepmother who has stolen it. Lots of things happen in this one. I can't even tell you without spoiling it. So basically, let's just put it this way. I love how the Snow White elements are woven into the story. I love how she wove dragons into the story because yes, there are dragons. And I just really think it's smart, and it's also funny, and it's also sweet, and there are a lot of swoons, and I just really love that. I was like dying the whole time I was reading it. I feel like I was yelling at multiple people who had already read it because I'm like, oh, I can't. Lots of things were happening, and they were killing me. Anyway, what I love about this too is that it's basically a standalone novel, but there are going to be companion novels to come that focus on different fairy tales and that are in different kingdoms around Ravenspire, which is the main kingdom. I gave this one a 4.75 out of 5 stars. The very last book I'm going to mention is a reread, and I did it on audio, and I'm so happy I did because I really, really enjoyed it, and that is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Oh my goodness, you guys, it was so much fun to revisit this world. I haven't done it in a while, and to just be able to relive all those moments and to re-meet all these characters. It almost feels like the first time, even though it's really not. And I loved it. The narration is incredible, the story is incredible still, and it's just as magical as the first time I read it. So obviously this one gets a 5 billion out of 5 stars. Alright you guys, that is the end of my January wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would love it if you subscribed, and I will see you soon for another video. Bye!